Welcome back. I said to Dave on the break, it'd be nice that we've called this section "This Thing Called Life," and I think one of the quotes from Sid is he said, "You know, this life is a full contact sport. You're going to get your knocks." And I said, "Do you think I should tell this story?" And Dave said, "Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. Nice time to it'll fit in." I don't know why I feel nervous now. So May 2018, leading up to this point, I'd had a bad back and I'd tried loads of different things, and Jay Feathers are really special to us, as we mentioned. And we had been in a cafe, Dave doing what he loves to do, earwigging on someone's conversation, hears them talking about basically labelling everyone. And so he butts in and starts talking to this lady, and she gets really interested, and he offers to go and do some sessions with her. She was off work at that time, not well, and so on his way to go and do this, he found a dead jay by the side of the road, and it had all the feathers on it. And it kind of seemed like
a couple of days before I'd asked, "Can I have some more feathers, please? Perhaps I could just find a dead jay. Not that I kill, but it's already been dead. It doesn't have to die for me." And it had been dead for a long time, I think. Sorry.
So it felt like this meeting was kind of so, like, the synchronicities of it all just seemed amazing. And then she then met us about a month later for a coffee, and she was telling me about this back person that she'd seen that had really helped her. And just as she was talking about it, this person walked in, and I was like, my goodness, the chances of that. And so then I went over and spoke and got the number, and at that point it didn't quite, so I said, I'll give you a call in a bit. And that was in about the February, March time. So then May 2018, I'd finally made this appointment, and Dave came to the first appointment with me because it was at somebody's house. And so I had this first appointment, and it really seemed to help. It was a bit bizarre. It's kind of like clicking, and you're fully clothed and you have to do all these movements, and it seemed quite bizarre. And I remember saying to Dave afterwards, he's mad as a box of frogs, but it seems really good. And this lady had said to us, he's very unconventional. And so I booked in to have another appointment a week later, because he said, you know, it's I've started something today. And so I go back a week later, and this time it's just me and Rust. Rust waits in the car. I think you're off metal detecting.
I was, yeah.
And he starts the treatment as normal, and then he sort of did like this hypnosis relaxation thing. And I don't know, like halfway through, like he started then like massaging my stomach, and he pulled my top up a bit, and I was thinking, well, you didn't do any of this last week. And I could feel my body tensing. And then, like, long story short, he ended up putting his hands down my pants, and I literally froze and didn't know what to do. And then it's after about a few minutes, he just said, if anything I do makes you feel uncomfortable, just tell me. So I literally, my whole body was frozen and like rigid at that point. I couldn't speak. And then it kind of ended, and he was like, "Oh, mates rates. Just give me," I think he said 20 quid, "just give me 20 quid, mates rates." So I just sort of put the money on the side, got in the car, and it was like, "Oh, do come back, won't you?" And I drove off, and I phoned my sister, who's on at the moment, and because the first appointment had been good, I told her to go and see him. And I phoned her and I said, "Tell me exactly what happened in your appointment." And in my head, I was thinking, have I signed up to this? She said it was unconventional, and I had all this. And at the time, my sister was with her husband, and he said, "It sounds like I've never heard your sister speak like this." And some of the things I was saying that he'd been saying to me, like, "Oh, go on," when he was doing the hypnosis, relax, and then calling me a good girl and all these things. He said, that sounds like she's almost been gaslighted, because I was doubting myself. Have I done something wrong? And I was in such a state. And then I went and met my sister, and I said, suddenly all of the sort of the fuzz cleared, and I was just like, shit, I've got to tell Dave. And I know how protective you are. And And I said to my sister, right, we're going to go to your house and I'm going to tell him there, and we're going to hide all the car keys. It was like all of my sort of scared upsetness had disappeared. And I was just like, right, we're going to go to yours and we're going to hide all the car keys, and we're going to get him to go in the car with Dietmar, and I'm going to come in the car with you. And poor Dave has been in the car with Dietmar, and he'd said to you, Dave's like, why are the girls being so weird? And he'd like, oh, you're just going to have to wait and see when you got there. So Dave thought he was going to have a nice surprise. He was thinking,
it was a nice surprise.
It's not my birthday or anything. So then I said to Dave, you know, I've got to tell you something, but I'm asking you, do you think you can not make this about you? And he was like, yeah, I think I can do that. So then I told him, and he was like, I'm really sorry, I really can't make this not about me. And you were just so angry. I think you actually like punched the floor. I thought you'd broken your hand. And you just said, sorry, can I go and see him? And I was like, no, you really can't. And you're like, can I phone him? And I was like, yeah, I think that would be all right. And I didn't have the number. So then you went off. And you ended up phoning the police, and it has ended up, it went to but it didn't go to court?
Yeah, it went to court.
I didn't have to be a witness because he admitted it. But the reason I wanted to...
Well, he went to prison. Yeah.
The reason I didn't have to go, he admitted it. So he got 18-month sentence. The reason I wanted to talk about this was because I was quite surprised at the reaction I had in terms of like how disorientated I was for a couple of weeks afterwards. But the main reason I wanted to talk about it was because that happened around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When we went to bed about 10 o'clock that night, I said to Dave, like, oh, it's so weird, but I've got so much compassion for that man. Like, he's just really made a massive mistake, and he'd really helped this other lady, like, and she knew other people that he'd helped. And I was like, he's really messed up, but I don't hate him. I said, I've just got a lot of compassion for him at the moment. And you said, earlier on, I wanted to kill him. But so quickly, you'd come back down and you said, God, I feel so much compassion for him too.
I felt so sorry that I was present at a time when a man, he was what, late
79.
79, the age of 79, a beautiful healer, a very knowledgeable man, had just fucked up his life because he acted on a thought.
Yeah.
I felt really sad to be present at a time of that taking place, and to be the man who had to phone the police.
I think I learned so much from that experience, and I think I always used to think if synchronicities happened, it's like we have an idea of then, well, life shows up like this and it's always good. But in some ways I'm so grateful for that experience, because I heard and saw again how I haven't trusted myself. Like, I knew that it was wrong in the moment when I was there, but I doubted myself. And since then I have had so much more trust and faith in myself. I know what's right for me, and I know what's appropriate and not appropriate. And
Can you speak up more?
I found my voice way more. And in so many ways, I'm grateful for the whole experience. And I never thought I would say that, because at the time, like, it was a couple of weeks, I was really disorientated. I couldn't get my mind off it. I kept going back to it and thinking, oh, for good, why didn't you shout? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And my mind was just busy for a couple of weeks. And I just let it do its thing. And then little by little, it fell away. And there'd be certain things that would kind of remind me of, like massage oil, like that would remind me of it, and this and that night. And
it's sad that the same name was actually your dad's name.
Yeah. But then probably about a year ago, we were doing a one-to-one together with someone on Zoom, and Dave said, would it be all right to mention about Peter? And I was like, Peter who? And it's like, it didn't even register. It was the weirdest thing. And I actually felt really, really sad for his family and for him. 79 years old, to go into prison for 8 months, and then he came out mid-lockdown because he served 9 months. He served half his sentence and the rest on tag or something. But I also found out that he'd actually only just come off a register for a sexual assault on a minor. So I felt that in some ways because I didn't want to go to the police. I just wanted to forget about it. I was embarrassed by it initially. But in some ways I feel like maybe I've prevented someone else going through this. And I thought, I'm an adult who kind of has some understanding about life and has the principles in it. Really knocked me off my axis for a little bit. And I feel, I hope that now it means that he won't be able to do that to anyone else. And I feel grateful for that. But I think, as I said, like the main reason I wanted to bring it up is because it would have seemed justified if I'd hated him and felt really negative towards him. I would have felt like I've got a just reason because he did wrong, he did bad. I'm allowed to, and actually I am allowed to do that. But I've seen how it will be me that feels that. Because to be honest, there has been times in the middle of the night, if it came to mind, I have gone through the feeling of rage and upset and why did you feel you could do that to me and all of that stuff. So it's like I just let it all come, but it feels like I can only come back to peace and where do I want to live. I don't want to live in hate and judgment and blame and bad people. Like I don't want to live there. And
I don't think that's like a positive thinking. I'm trying to think my way there. It's just something that it's just the way you're living.
I couldn't believe it. It was that night. I just felt filled with compassion. Totally filled. What an idiot. And I think life does happen. Life will bring us things. You often, life brings things to your table. But I've loved how I navigate things different with this understanding. And there's the kind of, I know that there's a perfection to life. And I might not always see it in the moment, but I can see that it's only through judgment that things appear wrong or right, good or bad. And it was a little while after that we listened to an incredible talk by a guy that studied near-death experiences, and he said how in the West we live in a belief system of twofold, which came from Aristotle. Something's either right or wrong, true or false. And
this is what our science is based on. We're always trying to prove things either true or false.
But he said in the Eastern cultures, they live in the fourfold. Things can either be true or false, true and false, or neither true nor false. And I realized that we kind of limit ourselves if we try and look for true, false, right, wrong. Is it this or is it that? People have often said, is there free will or is there God's will? We try and put it into that twofold way of thinking. But how that within different cultures, they don't see life like that. They see that things can't be put in a box. It makes sense, it doesn't make sense. It's this and it's that, and it's neither. And science and quantum physics is showing this now. Something can be a wave or a particle, like you were saying about the two slit experiment, double slit experiment.
It can be a wave, it can be a particle, it can go through both slits, or it can go through one slit.
It can have location or no location.
Yep. And this is what the physical universe is made of. That all and nothing law. Not everything and nothing law.
I think the other reason I wanted to speak about that is because I think sometimes the conversation we've kind of been having this morning, people can then start like almost blaming themselves if something bad happens in their life, or blaming themselves if they get poorly, or blaming them. This isn't a personal thing. Like what we were speaking about this morning is observations that we've found through what we see now. But life is so much bigger than what we think we know or see. And it feels like it humbles us. So I just wanted to say that, because this isn't then to put more responsibility on us in a heavy way. It's almost, I want people to see this is the good news. Like we can think again and think again and think again. We can have our mind is expansive. We're not limited or stuck with what we've thought before. But that we're scratching the surface of something so, I just don't know. Like, when I came across the principles, I felt like I knew something and I had something to share that was kind of tangible in some way. And the more I've been around it, I'm like, I don't know. This is pointing to something so vast, so beyond the intellect.
And can I ask you a question about it?
Yeah, of course.
You know, that the night time when you felt compassion for him, was there any, this might seem like a strange one, but did you know that you had to ring the police yourself, or did you know that Dave and your family, it was the right thing to do because everybody else probably said that? Or was there anything in you feeling that compassion, thinking, let's not bring the police in, let's not make it formal?
Because I mean, the decision had been taken out of my hand, because that was because Dave wasn't allowed to go and
smash his face in.
So he phoned the police. So the decision was taken out of my hands. But when the police came and interviewed me a couple of days later, like I said to you, it seemed like ages it took them to come and interview me. It was the day it happened on a Wednesday. They came on the Friday morning. They gave me the option: do you want to just register this, or do you want to press charges? And they said, but we have to tell you, given what you've told us, when we go to our superior, he probably will take this forward even if you choose not to. And definitely I experienced some guilt, thinking maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I've made a bigger deal out of this than I should have. And I think when the support lady came round to see me,
they were beautiful, weren't they?
Yeah, not the two police ladies, the support lady that came. Yeah. And then she told me he's just come off a register last year for a sexual assault on a minor. I felt like, God, he'd already been given a caution for that. It hadn't gone to court, but he'd been on a register, and then he's done it again. So that took quite a lot off my mind, because I did wonder, God, was this a one-off? Has he made one stupid mistake and now he's got these consequences? So yeah, I had all that kind of thought. Like, that was the noise, that was the busyness of it all. But yeah, I wouldn't do any of it different now. And like I loved, like I said to you, that's probably the one night where I just felt rage. And I'd always said to Dave, God, when you talk about your rages and your anger, I don't think I've ever felt like that. I don't think I've ever had to experience that burning of rage and anger. Like, it just hasn't been something that I've experienced in my life. And I had a night of that and had all kinds of dark thoughts around it all. But I didn't try and stop it. I didn't try in that moment to be like, right, now you need to be compassionate. Like, none of it was a mechanical thing. And I think it's something Lisa often speaks to, like, this understanding has given me a trust in life. And she describes it, I trust in my life. I trust in my life. And I totally trust in life. It does not mean there's not going to be things that happen that I struggle with or find hard, or that I like, some of the stuff I might really not like. But I trust in life. And this isn't mechanical. Like, we can't go, now I need to see this is just my thinking, and then.
No. If anybody at any point is doing that, we hear this all the time. It's just your thinking. It's just your thinking. I hate that statement. Personally, I can't stand it. the moment I hear that, I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, go beyond that. Don't stop there. Don't stop there. It's not just your thinking. It's all thought. It's all thought. If you're thinking it's just your thinking, you're trying to change the dream. No, see, it's a dream. That'll change everything. Sorry.
Why?
Just interrupted you.
Did you?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think you did.
No, this thing called life, as it's called now in this section, like this thing called life, brings with it challenges. It brings with it temporary experiences. All experience ultimately is one, from birth till death. It's one continuous experience that shows up in an infinite amount of ways. We call it our life. And within this infinite amount of ways, there's going to be difficult times, times of challenge, times when we feel like we're just on a gentle sledge downhill, just cruising nicely, just floating away, bobbing around on an ocean on a nice sunny day. There's going to be times when the ocean gets turbulent, throws us around. I feel like the more we kind of wake up to ourselves, the more grace we carry us through. After, when Jenny first told me about that man, if he was stood in front of me, I'd have pummeled him.
You think?
Probably. The way I felt, I'd have leathered him. I was furious.
Can I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Mum.
I got attacked one morning when I was walking to work and somebody tried to drag me in a field. This was before Dave was born. And John was in such a furious mood that the police had to take his keys off, because if he got hold of this man, he would have truly murdered him. So the police had John's keys. And this guy was known in the area, and the police knew who he was. And he got 4 years for this particular attack on me, which had rather a bad effect on me. But the one good thing that came out of it was Dave, because he upset my menstrual cycle. And because I'd had an upset that cycle, I got pregnant with Dave. So it's a sort of, yes, this was a terrible, terrible thing that happened to me, and it affected me for years and years and years because I didn't understand where my thinking came from. It changed the whole dynamics of our family in a way which made John the more bigger protector, and then expected Dave to be the bigger protector. So this is where all this comes from. But I got Dave from that, and when I look back on it, all these things that you think are the worst things possible in your life, the things that you're never going to get over, you always get something good out of it. So I got Dave.
Never want to miss an opportunity. Thanks, Rob. Yeah. It's interesting, you know. One of the things that you come to know is that although experience is a permanent thing, what the experience is showing up like is temporary. Always. Always, always, always. One of our biggest fears is the way I feel is how I'm going to be stuck forever. Depression. I'm going to have depression. I was told I was going to have depression forever. You will have depression forever. It's part of you. It's part of you, Dave. Now, you may need to be medicated at times. Perhaps you'll find ways to deal with it, but it'll always be part of you. Bullshit. I've come to see that's absolute bullshit at the deepest level. It's bollocks. It's nonsense. All experience is temporary, apart from the fact of experience itself. Permanent, foreverness. That's what consciousness is. Consciousness, another word for consciousness is awareness. Another word for awareness is experience. You can't possibly be aware without an experience. There's nothing to be aware of. So there has to be something to experience. And experience, another word you could say for experience, is reality. There is no, a reality is a dream state that never comes to an end. We dream death. We dream birth. We dream life. Reality, consciousness. You come from the light. You are the light. You're going towards the light. Continuous, never-ending state of spiritual awareness, infinite reality. Now, how the reality shows up is infinite within itself. It can show up in an infinite amount of ways.
Cheryl just said you broke up. What's absolute bullshit?
Oh, bollocks.
Your depression.
Yeah,
That
I was going to struggle with depression forever. That's what I was told by psychiatrists, psychologists, and doctors and stuff. It's bollocks. It's anybody who tells you that, walk away from them and never give them a hug, send them some love. Don't listen to them again. Not about that. Please don't. Anybody who tells you you're going to have depression or anything for the rest of your life, please walk away from them. Don't listen to a word they have to say. Bless them. It's not their fault. Trouble is, Grandad, you don't know what you don't know. I think life's hilarious.
I think Archie's listening.
Hey up, Arch.
You can teach him some words.
Sorry, Arch. What was that? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. All experience, what we are experiencing right now, is a temporary manifestation of the permanent. The reality we are experiencing right now and will ever experience is a temporary manifestation of the permanent. It's like that parable of the house and the sand and the house built of stone. The permanent is the house built on stone. Those that build the house on the sand are building the house on something that's always shifting. That's why we live in a state of confusion when we live like that, trying to figure out who we are by looking at the experience, because it comes and goes. It's born and it dies, 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 in this forever continuum of permanence. And I think the expression that came once Peter did what he did, I was livid, full of rage. I've not felt so angry in so many years, if ever, in fact. I was so angry, I was livid. I did get to speak to him. I got to phone him up. I spoke to him. He phoned me back. He had the bollocks to phone me back. God bless him. Don't think he quite knew who I was. He phoned me back, and I said exactly what I wanted to say to him. And the old man cried. First of all, he denied it. He denied it. Oh, it didn't happen. I said, do not make Jenny out to be a liar. Jenny is the least lying human being on the planet. Don't you dare make her out to be a liar. If I find you, lie to the police. There's going to be hell on. I got to say all kinds of things that I wanted to say to him. And he cried. Then hung up. And then I thought, the only thing I can do is I must tell the police. That's what made sense in that moment. And I remember going from utter anger to straight away into the deepest sadness. One experience changed to the next in a moment. I remember just sitting there and crying. Somebody would do that to Jen and make her feel so confused about herself, and it wasn't him that did that, but just in everyday language. And then to go back that night and just have pure compassion for the man. It was such a, I don't have judgment about getting angry. I don't judge myself for doing it. I don't judge myself for getting upset. I don't look at this and go, oh, you understand, you share the principles and therefore you shouldn't get angry. Oh, you must always live like this. Life does not exist like that. Life has to bring its challenges. One of the biggest causes of suffering is the idea that life should come without its challenges. I should always be happy. That thought, I should always be happy, is one of the biggest suffering creators possibly going. That belief. Creates so much suffering. I feel like acceptance is one of the most beautiful things that is born from starting to become aware. Is you start to accept life. Accept shit happens. Accept the growth that comes from the shit. Shit fertilizes roses beautifully. Shit fertilizes the food that we consume beautifully. It helps it grow. So much of the time, the shit truly is a fertilizer for growth. I often ask people, you know the hard times in your life? Yeah. Would you change them now? See Mary shaking her head, Kim shaking her head. No. Won't change any of it. Why not? Well, it's helped me get to where I am today. And I'm more beautiful because of it. People are so afraid of the hard times. The hard times are where we truly grow. It's the shit that fertilizes our soul. It's where we really find we're unbreakable. Unbreakableness is only ever a theory until it's tested. And quite often it's only ever seen with hindsight. Quite often we go through this shit and we're not even aware we've come out of it. We're just in the new experience. That's why we've loved doing Kate's reflections. Kate just gets quiet and reflects upon her own life, only to learn something for her present moment. It's the beautiful thing about memory. You get to remember, to piece back together. To dismember is to take apart. Don't dismember reality. Don't tear it apart. Yeah.
When you were speaking, it really reminded me, there's a Chinese proverb of Say Weng lost his horse. The changing winds of luck and good fortune. I'm hoping this is the right one, I've just Googled it. Where is it? Don't know if I've actually found the right one. I wanted to, so Say Weng lived on the border and he raised horses for a living. One day he lost one of his prize horses. After hearing of this misfortune, the neighbour felt sorry for him and came to comfort him. But Sai Weng simply asked, "How could we know if this is a good thing for me?" After a while, the lost horse returned, and with another beautiful horse. The neighbour came over again, congratulated Sai Weng on his good fortune. But Sai Weng simply asked, "How could we know it is not a bad thing for me?" One day his son went out for a ride with the new horse. He was violently thrown from the horse and broke his leg. The neighbours once again expressed their condolences to Sai Weng, but Sai Weng simply said, How could we know it is not a good thing for me? 1 year later, the Emperor's army arrived at the village to recruit all able-bodied men to fight in the war. Because of his injury, Se Wang-sung could not go off to war and was spared from certain death. The proverb can be read to have multiple implications when it comes to the concept of luck and fortune. The end of the story seems to suggest that every misfortune comes with a silver lining, or as we might put it in English, a blessing in disguise. But within the story is also the sense that with what at first appears to be good luck can come misfortune. Giving its dual meaning, this proverb is commonly said when bad luck turns to good or when good luck turns to bad. And I think I've read that one at a different time, and I think it's written out a few different ways. And one of the things is when the neighbours came to say, "Isn't this terrible?" He'd say, "Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see." And I think that's one of the ways in which I see life now. Like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see.
But we can deal with all of it. We already have. We've dealt with all of it. Every single thing that's come our way, we've dealt with it. We did it.
It's like when we did the interview Kate with Kate's Reflections, and it's almost, you had such a difficult time. I don't know if everyone knows who Kate is, but you can go on YouTube and we have her Kate's Reflections, which are fantastic. But her daughter struggled with anxiety and was unable to go to school a lot of the time, and it was a real battle for a few years. It was difficult. But then through that and through Kate's search, she came across the principles. And Kate's who I mentioned on the first day, where now people are coming out the woodwork and finding Kate, and she's getting to share this message. And her videos are getting viewed like many times. And so it seemed like such a terrible thing that Georgia wouldn't go to school and she was struggling with anxiety. But then through the search, Kate found the principles and her life's changed, and she's now helping change other lives. And it is often only on reflection that we get to see the blessings in some of these things and the learning.
Gifts.
But I think that's, you know, we can see the blessings and we can see the learnings, or we can, like, I know I've done it. I can wallow in my self-pity. Why me? Why has this happened? And I can do that from time to time. But it's nice to know that we can. There's learning in it all. In the same way, when Dave spoke about his resilient larch,
The tree.
you know, it fell down. It seemed like a terrible thing, but then it's got to grow back stronger, more stable, more beautiful. And then it got David observing it, and suddenly he gets a gift, a knowledge, a message from this tree. I don't know if Lisa's actually there or whether she's just got her screen still on. Lisa, are you there?
Michelle Ransom.
I was going to ask Lisa to share, but is Raha on? I'm not sure if she is.
Came on before, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd able to speak to Raha, but Lisa was gifted a Quran, and she got to know this this guy who she bought her car off, and they had this incredible conversation, and he was talking about how he was eating an apple, and he said that apple was always going to be eaten by you. And he was talking to it. I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about that, but when she told me, it was almost like it was like a message within the Quran about the perfection and the unfolding of life. Oh, you're muted.
Hi. As Muslims, we understand that actually everything has been written. So our provisions, even before we were born, was decided upon. and it was decided how long we would live for, where we would die, how we would die, and how much wealth, etc., we would have. So that kind of gives us a peace in a way, because you do your bit and you leave the rest to God or the universe, or you know, whatever term that you want to use. And I liked what you said about, you know, from shit you get beautiful roses and things. And we grow through all these difficulties and situations. And at the time we may think, oh my God, I can never get through this. But there is actually a verse in the Quran which says that verily with every difficulty, verily with every hardship comes ease. And then it's repeated again. And the meaning is that after one hardship, you will get many eases. Not just one ease, many eases. And there's another verse which says that no soul will have a burden greater than they can bear. So that just gives me peace, in the sense that whatever difficulty I'm going through, I know that I'll be able to handle it, because I wouldn't have got it otherwise.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. Where's she at? Where's Aaliyah at? She's not on today, is she?
I don't know.
The Muslim lady we've been speaking to.
Yes, I know her.
You know Aaliyah?
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever heard of the group Outlandish? Oh, it's an American group, and I think there's a couple of Muslims in it. Like, and I love the music, but there's this line in one of my favourite songs. Look it up. Outlandish, Warrior, Warrior. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful, beautiful song. Warrior, Warrior by Outlandish. And it says, God never promised you days without pain, sorrow, but he did promise strength for you every day.
Mm.
And I remember that being, and it's bellowed out. I mean, it is properly bellowed out in this part of the song, like, and it hits you right in the heart, and you're like,
can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just one sec, please. Yeah, it's one of those things. And I remember I said that to Aaliyah, and she went, I cannot believe you've just quoted that. I said, why? My husband, he produced that album.
That's amazing, yes.
Yeah, his husband produced Outlandish's album. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But you see, like, in all religion there's truth, and it's like, it's there for the taking. I feel like so many people, I'm not religious personally, I'm not religious, but I've got a deep respect for every single religion and that I come across. It's like, because I know there's truth within it. And many people, we notice, they kind of go through the motions of being religious without really exploring the essence and the gifts, that the truth written in these books of wisdom and knowledge, that are ultimately about the awakening and the enlightenment of the soul, and the reunifying the soul back, not that it can ever be separated, but reunifying the ego back into its rightful place. It has a purpose, does ego. It has a purpose to exist on this earth, to be a somebody, to play the game of life, but to awaken that space. There would be no need for religion if we didn't forget the space from which we come. And it's so interesting that every single religion you look at is all pointing towards love.
Mm.
Everyday thing, the everydayness of love and connection.
I liked what you said about some people are religious, but they're just sort of going through the motions in a way. And it's being about spiritual and being, I think, spiritually awakened to that.
Aware, just awareness, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raha, love.
Thanks.
Thanks. What were you going to ask, please? Oh,
Dad, I'm just online.
I just mentioned, I don't even know why I was going to ask you to speak.
Apple.
Yeah, it was when you said about when you ate the apple when you were with
Oh, with Abbots.
yeah, I don't know why that was relevant then, but I was going to ask you to tell that story.
Has it missed the point, or
No, carry on.
go on? Just give me a
I keep looking over there. It's because
give me some context. Can you give me some context? Hanging up.
I think we were talking about the perfection of life.
Oh, so I had a Ford Ranger that was actually Dave's, which I absolutely loved. This van, I could ram it everywhere. I'd already damaged it quite a lot, and David already damaged it quite a lot. So had this vehicle that was just stick your kayaks on, go for it. It was just,
you damaged it more.
I damaged it more. Dave handled it so well. And can you give me 1 second? They're in Ewan's caravan as you walk in the door, hanging up on a lanyard. And I looked at my neighbour said to me one day, Lisa, come with me. He said, go look underneath your car. He said, because I followed you into Kendal and your van was crabbing across the road. And it was a big, like, Ford Ranger pickup, like, massive truck thing. And I was like, nah, there ain't, Nev. And he's like, no, come and look at it. Anyway, the chassis had completely rusted away from the wheels in the back. So it was a death trap, basically. So I tried to look for a new car and I thought, I just want something that I can vandalise and not have to be too precious about. And then this one day I woke up and I went online and I just saw this black Golf estate, and it was in a place called Nelson in Colne. And I pulled them onto this forecourt, pouring with rain, and this lad walked out and I went, there was this recognition of this guy. And he said, he said, come on, let's go for a test drive. Well, this test drive was 3 hours long. It started off, we got in the car and he said to me, do you believe in God? Or do you have a faith? I can't remember what you said. And I was like, oh yeah, massively. And he said, so who do you worship? And I was like, I can't put it in a box. There's no name to the thing that I worship, because I don't worship anything. I just realize I am it. And so is everything else. It's just an expression of creation. And he was like really interested. And he was like, well, and he was talking about the Quran and Allah, and I was talking about stuff, and he was like, wow, you're talking about the Quran. You're talking about the Quran. Like, everything you're saying is in the Quran. And I was like, it's just what I see life. It's like, yeah, but, and he couldn't figure me out. And he was like, well, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that? I was like, I pretty much believe in everything, because it is all it. Just can't catch it and put it in the bottom. Anyway, he said that I didn't even look at the car. I said, yeah, buy it. And then he was like, well, I'm going to try and get you a discount. So he went off to see his boss and he came back and he got some money off his car. I was like, fantastic. Didn't look at the car. I was meant to meet this guy. Anyway, it turned out that I couldn't take the car home that day. So I had to go back the next day and my train got delayed. So I didn't get in till Nelson in Colne till 7 o'clock at night. And this guy had said, well, I'm going to bring you the car and I'll pick you up after work, because work will close, and we'll take you to get the car. And we just went into this place of presence, and it was like, it was a complete message to us both, because we went back to his little apartment. Now, most people might be thinking, oh yeah, did you? It was like, that was way beyond that. It was bigger than both of us, the conversations that we had. And I hadn't eaten anything since lunchtime, and we'd been talking for hours. 5 o'clock in the morning, I set a phone. I hadn't eaten or drunken anything, but I hadn't even thought about it, because the conversation was so destined for both of us. And it was the thing that Jen was saying, was that Abby said, what were you eating today? I said, oh, I had an apple on the train on the way down. And he said, do you realise that apple was destined, always destined for you to become part of you? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, from the minute that apple tree took root and grew, that seed created that apple to sustain your life, that apple always had your name on it. It was always going to become part of your body. And it knocked me for six. I was like, wow. I am, this sounds mental, but I actually am that apple because it physically keeps my physiology, my physicalness, my cells, and sugar in the apple gives my muscles glucose I can tap into if I want to go for a run. And yeah, it was an enchanting night, and I came away with a Quran, which I've enjoyed reading, which I wash my hands before I read it, and I read it from back to front, and it will always put it the highest place in the room. And I came away with some threads from a saint's grave that Abid had that he treasured, and some oud, which was beautiful, which is an oud is resin from a tree, I think, or sap from a tree, which smells beautiful, which, Raha, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Muslim culture they believe that it interrupts negative thoughts. That's why people with Muslim faith always smell gorgeous. I always think they do anyway. And it all made sense to me, but we just sat and blew each other's minds, and then you realise that it was never to do with the car, because he had a message from me, which was massive. I had a message for him. His brother struggled with addiction, and he didn't know what to do with him. And I just said, just love him. Just love him, because you could never, anything you say to tell him to do, he has to find this for himself. And if you just love him deeply, it gives him the space to find that. Whereas if you sit there and you poke at him and you tell him what to do, blah, 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 he's never going to find it. So we both had a message for each other, and it was beautiful. And I love my car, and I called it Nurani, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Raha, means the light of God. So that's what my car's called, and it feels magical when I drive it, and I feel safe. And I always think of Abid, and I traded him a J feather for the Quran and threads and the ouds. I don't know if that talks to what you done.
It does. Thank you, Lise.
I'm going to talk to something that somebody sent us. I'm not going to mention her name.
Okay.
I'm going to read it, but I'm not going to mention any names, because this might help other people. You know, if you come up with a question and you think it's stupid, please don't. It may help other people. And it says, it seems fine to live in this freedom when we only have ourselves to care for, our own experiences to accept. When we have others to care for and they're struggling with health issues, our children, regardless of age. My son needs me to be strong. I need to know I am strong. Resilient, but I forget how. Cannot disconnect from this incessant fear.
Dave, could you just read that again, please?
It seems fine to live in this freedom when we only have ourselves to care for, our own experiences to accept. When we have others to care for and they are struggling with health issues, our children, regardless of their age, my son needs me to be strong. I need to know I am strong. Resilient, I forget how. Cannot disconnect from the incessant fear.
Mind if I speak to that?
Go on, Liz, yeah.
I don't know who wrote that, but I can relate to that in regards to having somebody I deeply love in life who struggled very much with addiction to the point where it was probably going to kill them. And I realised that my worry was so unhelpful. It was so unhelpful to that person who was struggling. It took me quite a long time to realise that. Because I realised that every single thing that I worried about regarding this person, who was pretty much twice was heading towards death, to the point where I had to accept that this person may not live, may not be part of my life anymore. And within that, I found the beauty of life and death. I found that it's one and the same thing. So it's almost like all this stuff happens to take you on a journey sometimes, to show you something. But the worry I used to go to in regards to this other person's health and well-being, now I look at it and I realise that I underestimated their ability to be okay. I thought that almost like, I definitely didn't think my worry helped anybody, because it didn't. It was debilitating, to say the least, really debilitating. But I realised that the things that I worried about never happened. Like genuinely, they never happened. And me catching and me realising the nature of thought, the nature of experience, the fact that you can start having a cup of tea and then you get that worry for somebody else, which is natural and normal and ordinary and will always happen and always has happened and is just a part of the fabric of this life. But when you can see it and you know what it is, you don't have to be part of it. It doesn't have to entangle you. You can undo the knot. I've got a fabulous friend who, she said, it's like you're going along a piece of rope and you get to this knot. She's like, you have to untangle the knot. You carry on along the piece of rope, and it's a bit like that with worry. It's a thought in motion about another person. And my personal experience of worry has been that we never know what's going to happen in life. I had a phone call from a friend this morning who lives in Brighton, and she went swimming in the sea yesterday. She's a little bit of a worry. She can worry about things sometimes. And she rang me and she went, oh my God, Liz. It was funny actually, it was on the back of a quote that I'd read, and it said, I wish it didn't take a lifetime to realise what it is to be alive. I love that. I wish it didn't take a lifetime for me to realise what it is to be alive. I read that quote this morning. And my friend rang me and she said, Lisa, I just had to ring you. She said, I nearly died yesterday. I really nearly died. She said, I went swimming in the sea in Brighton, and she said, I got stuck. She said, all of a sudden the waves swished up. She said, I had this massive panic attack. She said, I just got so frightened. She said, I couldn't get out of the sea. She said, I was freezing cold. She said, I could see Chris on the beach. She said, I couldn't get my hands out of the water to even suggest. She said, my body went heavy. And she said, I was just trapped in the waves. And I said to her, you know, sometimes these things come to wake us up to the fact that all the things we worry about don't really tend to happen, and then you can just go for a swim in the sea to make yourself feel good, and the waves can move up and you can get stuck. But she had this kind of like, I can't even put it into any context, but I've got this gratitude for life. And I was like, yes, mate, let's not miss this life, because sometimes those are the things that come to shake us up and go, right now in this moment, you are alive. Catching that worry and just gently being able to let it go, realizing that's not happening, just gently letting it go. And that's not to say that's true for every person, but my experience is that when I let my worry go, I started to see it. I mean, I acted on this worry quite a lot. I would go to this person's house, I'd get in my car at 4 o'clock in the morning because I can see them hanging from a tree or dead in bed, you know. I physically moved with that worry, and then I started to see it's like every time I acted on this worry, falling and panicking wasn't what was going on. And then I started to see that creation was just within me. And I didn't even have to get rid of it, because if I could just notice it, it could gently wash away instead of trapping it and believe in it. I can remember my hairdresser's son passed his driving test. She said, all I do is just worry about him having a car crash, and I just think he's going to die all the time. And I just spoke to her about the negative thought, and I said, you know, these things come in, but they don't happen, but we feel them. So that we feel our way through this life. I don't know if that speaks to that worry at all. But just what came to me.
Thanks, Louise.
Thanks, Lou.
Can I jump in with something?
Andy, please.
Hi. It's interesting because just before Lisa started speaking, I started to worry about my partner because he has sleep apnea. And I could feel the anxiety rising within me. And he's in bed now, sleeping, and I'm thinking, well, he's asleep during the day because he's not sleeping properly at night, and what's going to happen and all this. And the worry just kind of eased a little bit, listening to Lisa, and just kind of came at the right moment. And I like what she said about just when we notice the worry, we can just gently let it go, because we tend to cling, don't we? When worry comes up, and it's like, oh my God, I need to focus on this. This comes with a feeling of urgency, and therefore it must mean something.
This is it, Andy. And the amazing thing about this life is we physically feel it as well. Like we can have this thought, then we release adrenaline, so we get the shakes, and we get the worry, and then the creation comes, and we're like, boom!
Yeah.
We created this idea is coming to life through us. It's like coming alive, and our physiology is like totally responding to it. But the more you start to see that, the more fascinating those experiences can be. And we'll always worry, because it's part of life. It's normal. It's normal to care for somebody. It's normal for it's the situation going on that's unusual, that you would prefer not to be going on. Our minds work on what we talk about. So if we've got a situation I used to see it as a vortex. I used to see it as this vortex, and I could feel myself going into this vortex. And even to the point where I could visualize myself like hanging on the edge of this vortex going, I'm not coming! No! And I'd be like this going, I am not coming! So it's we just get these little whirlpools that are just little stories. You can be sat at a cup of tea and fully create the fact that the person next to you might just die. Then you'll get up in the morning and you'll have a cup of tea and it'll have been all gone, and you'll wonder what you were worried about.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. I just want to, if possible, I just want to go to Mary. Mary's had a hand up for a wee while now. But I just want to, if I can, I just want to just gently bring this point back in. When we're listening to the principles, when we're listening to people speak, it can be really easy for us to try and filter what we're listening to through our problem, what we perceive to be our problem. I just want to reiterate this point again, that when we're listening, please don't listen to try and fix a problem, because all we will listen for is, we won't listen to what's actually being said. We'll be listening for, please answer my question. Please answer my question. Please, I want to talk about weight. When are they going to talk about weight? When are they going to talk about depression? When are they going to talk about worry? When are they going to talk about... If you've got that on your mind and you're listening for... The principles cannot fix anything. They cannot fix you. They cannot do anything for you. They're up and running. It's the way that you are using the principles to create the experience that you don't like. What we're talking about is the essence, the creative force. If you can wake up to that, you will start to understand, you'll start to hear deeper. So when we try and listen for an answer, please don't. Please put that to one side and just listen. And you may just find that the answer comes to you. The only place that you will ever find the answer is within yourself. You will not find it in another person, in another person's words. You will only ever find it within yourself. It's just the way it works. Mary.
I was just going to add to that, and don't listen to this to try and fix someone else.
No, certainly not. You cannot.
Listen to this for yourself.
Yeah. You can only You can only help yourself. And as selfish as it sounds, it's not selfish. It's the kindest thing you can do. Mary, love.
Okay. When I was working with my daughter, she'd had the cancer 5.5 years. So it was a very much a roller coaster. She was okay, she wasn't okay, she was okay. And then she was diagnosed as terminal. So we all knew that what was coming. But I took her to see a friend who does alternative therapy, complementary therapy. And while I was sitting waiting for her, I realised that what I was wanting was for her to be okay so that I could be okay. And I realised that that actually was putting an awful lot of pressure on her to be okay. And it was also putting a lot of pressure on me to make her feel okay, none of which was really necessary because she was okay.
Can I add something to that?
Just, well, Mary, that was beautiful. I think that was a really beautiful point. That was a really, really beautiful point. Thank you for that. Okay, and then we'll go to Andy because he's got his hand raised.
Oh, is this me or Andy? Actually, I was agreeing with what Mary just said, because I think I did the same thing. My situation was obviously different with Georgia, but I wanted her to be okay so that I could feel okay. And going back to that, the original point that whoever it was made about wanting to, or feeling they have to be strong for their son. And the thing is, I felt that I had to be strong for Georgia. I thought that was my role as a mother. I had to be strong for her, but I didn't feel strong because I was in the storm with her. And so, but I thought I had to be strong. And actually that thought got in the way because that actually isn't my role. My role, I see now, my role is to love Georgia. And actually, I saw, and I started to really feel this, that I didn't have to be strong for her because she had everything she needed. And in my thought that I had to be strong for her, because I didn't feel strong, what was happening innocently is I was losing my connection with her because I was getting caught up in this whole having to be strong for my child. And actually, as soon as I let go of that, and I could see that she had everything she needed, she could do life. I just didn't know that she could. And once I started to see that and I started to really feel that and know that she has everything she needed, it's not coming from me being strong. She has it anyway. So then I let go of this idea that I have to be strong because, we don't always feel strong. It's fine, whatever's going on. But what happened was I could just have this connection with Georgia. And that was what she needed. She didn't need me to be strong. She's got what she needs, but she just, what she was craving, I think, was actually the connection with me. And that comes from love. That's not coming from me having to be a certain way because I'm her parent. So as you go back and you realize your love is enough and they have everything they need. So this idea that we have to be strong actually slightly gets in the way. And that's all I was just going to say.
Can I jump in as well on that one? My daughter did a beautiful reflection to me. She said, Mum, all you can think about is cancer, and I don't want to think about that. And I'm not coming to see you if you talk about that anymore. So if you want to see me, you'll have to stop.
I wish I'd met your daughter, Mary.
She was incredible. I tell you, she was an inspiration.
Sounds like my kind of lass. Bless her. What a hero. And what a gift she still is to this world.
Mm.
Missing man.
Andy.
Andy, sorry. No, sorry, it's Andy
We're
first.
trying to do it in order.
Hi.
Andy.
So I just heard something in the last few minutes with regards to, well, a few things. They're coming in with an agenda in terms of wanting to hear something specific in order to aid my whatever progression, spiritual progression. And I think that's what I do when I'm listening in, is I'm looking for something somehow. And I mean, I know it's fine, but I guess it's about seeing beyond trying to fix my personal thought stream. And also, yeah, with regards to my partner, he knows what he needs. He knows if he needs to go to the doctor, he'll go to the doctor, and me stressing about him isn't going to help. And again, it breaks my connection with him, because he just needs to feel my presence. So I don't know. That's just what I wanted to say. There was something in that with the agenda that just hit me.
Andy, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you say you are searching for something?
I think so.
What are you looking for?
Yeah. A way out of anxiety.
You think you're looking for a way out of anxiety.
Yeah.
So all you listen through the filter of is, I'm looking for a way out of anxiety.
Yeah.
You can't listen at that point, mate.
Mm.
You're preloaded. You ask people this question, searchers, I'm a searcher. Okay, what are you searching for? Majority of the time people go, I don't know. What are you looking for? I don't know. Well, I suggest you stop looking then.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go on some mad goose chase trying to find the thing you think you're looking for. I guarantee it's not it. The moment you think you know what you're looking for, it's not it. It's a thought. It's a thought created reality.
Mm.
Say to people, please just listen. Don't
Yeah.
come.
Mm-hmm. And I think I have been listening for the most part. I've just kind of had this on in the background while I've been doing what I've been doing. And I actually wasn't going to turn up. Someone mentioned that this retreat was happening last week, and I thought, I'm probably not going to do that. I can't be bothered to look it up on the internet. And then and Sabia sent me the link, and I thought, go on then. I'll join in. And I've heard a lot, actually, just from listening kind of passively.
No, that's it, buddy. You know, the thing that ultimately we're searching for, you cannot even describe it. The principles are not they're not a therapy, they're not a counselling, they're not a technique to help us feel better. The consequence or the
byproduct.
Yeah, the byproduct, that'll do, Andy. The byproduct is peace. More peace, greater peace, even peace within the suffering, the acceptance. Now when we're talking about true freedom, we're not talking about freedom of, I once had a man say to me, he said, I want the freedom you have, Dave. I think I said this before, but, well, what does that look like to you? What do you see in me as being free? And he said, you're always happy and you love everybody. I said, that's not true. I'm not always happy and I don't always love everybody. A couple of days ago, there was somebody I really wasn't loving. But I do think I'm free. And I said to him, yeah, I do think I'm free, but I'm free because I am not afraid to suffer.
Mm.
Now I'm free. I was always afraid to suffer. I was terrified of suffering. I was so adamant I shouldn't suffer, which created more suffering.
Yeah.
The freedom to understand that it is all thought. The whole game of life is thought. Whatever we think is the reality we are encountering, if we are worrying, it's not created by the child. It's not created by the world circumstance. As difficult and as please don't think I'm being heartless when I say this. I'm just saying the way it works compared to the way it doesn't, because I've got deep empathy and I deeply love people and I know people suffer. I also know that all suffering is born of misunderstanding. You know,
Yeah.
when I read that thing that was being said, a few things came to me that I really, you know, we think we're being kind to people. If somebody is suffering, we think it's kind to jump in the water with them and to join them in that suffering. We think somehow that's kind. I can absolutely tell you one thing, it brings absolutely nothing to either person of value. To jump in the water and both of us end up struggling around in the water brings no value to anybody. It doesn't bring a value to the person who is suffering. It doesn't bring kindness. It just brings more suffering into the consciousness of humanity. It brings more suffering into the circumstance. We have a friend called Mahima who woke up during the Nepalese earthquake when all around her there was death and destruction taking place in 2015 earthquake. She woke up and she found peace within the earthquake. True peace, depth peace, primordial peace. And I always remember her saying there is something so useful for people who are in panic to have somebody around them who is of sound mind. I am so useful to my people when I'm like in sound mind. Because I was in sound mind, I was useful to people around me who were not in theirs. Her not jumping in the water, thinking that her joining that individual in suffering, or perhaps I don't have the right to be happy because this person's suffering. I don't have the right to be kind to myself and to find peace. I don't have the right because there's so much shite going on in the world. Why do I deserve to have happiness? I have all this fantastic stuff around me. I'm lucky. I don't deserve to be happy.
You've muted yourself, I think.
Sorry, man.
Oh, no, you're back.
I'm back. Again, that brings, perhaps somebody may be thinking, I don't deserve to be happy. How can I be happy if I've got this situation going on in my life with this loved one? I shouldn't be happy. I should be really suffering because they're suffering. It brings no value to the circumstance. It just brings more and more suffering into the circumstance.
Mm.
One of the things that Sydney Banks would say was, listen for yourself and be selfish. Be selfish with this. You can only be what you are, and you can only give away what you have. If you are full of hostility and anger and resentment or worry, that's all you can give away. That's all you can present to the world. That's all you can bring to the circumstance. There is no healing found in fear.
Mm.
Healing is found in love and acceptance and understanding. Fear is not a righteous place to exist. Fear is the antithesis of that, if that's the right word.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you?
I knew you were going to say that word, antithesis.
Are you good at English?
Quite good, yeah.
That'll do again. But yeah, we think that fear is somehow and worry and anxiety and
It
this.
speaks what Kate said, that she hadn't realised all those things were getting in the way of her actually just being there for Georgia. And when she realised, their connection came back, and that was actually all Georgia was looking for, was love. She didn't jump in the fear with her. I'm just being the timekeeper.
Yeah.
I know we've gone over a bit, but Mary, you've had your hand up for so long. I really would love to hear from you
Please.
before we go to lunch.
And Kim, if you're not.
Sorry, I'll put it down. I'll put it down.
Oh no, another Mary. Wasn't you?
Oh.
You just put it back up.
Mary, man, unmute yourself.
I'm glad you know my last name. It's funny because when I saw, you kept saying Mary's had a hand up, Mary's had a hand up. I thought, I don't remember putting my hand up. And then I realized, of course, there's another Mary. And then I just wanted to quickly say, Mary and Kate, to both of you, that I resonated really strongly with what you said about your daughters and so on, and because I've been through the same, very similar things. And what I got out of it for myself was that I realized that I had set in place, first of all, the idea that I had to help her because I was her mother. Like something you just said now, Dave, about Nahima being a sound mind. I thought I was a sound mind and I thought I could help her. So I thought I had to do that, and that was my role. And I realized that in actual fact, I was not a sound mind at all, because I was in the water with her, drowning with her. I couldn't prevent myself from doing that. And then I came to see that I had set up a thinking process. I had set up a mechanism somehow that I needed her worried, anxious state so as to feed my worried, anxious state. I was actually using her to feed my view of the world. Now I'd like to come back to something that, when you said you got your hand up, I thought, I haven't, but there is something I'd like to say. It's that a while ago, I read a book by Michael Pollan, an American author. The book was called How to Change Your Mind. And when this friend presented it to me, I read that title and I thought, oh, I wonder whether this is anything to do with 3 principles, or how it will tally with or not 3 principles. Then I realized it's a study, in-depth study of LSD and psilocybin, and how these 2 drugs allow, scramble what they call the default mode network, which is like the hub in the brain that collates all the information coming in, how it scrambles that, so we can start having, well, a thought might have a color, a flower might have some music going with it. Everything becomes scrambled. And as he goes on in the book, he looks at these 2 drugs from so many different angles. And at the end, he has this whole section on the biology, what actually happens. And in it, he says that our thinking processes, well, our whole life experience starts very early, as we'll see. And from that point on, everything is filtered by this hub so as to fit the picture that was set at the outset. And so I come to see that 3 principles for me is such a wonderful tool, because it allows me to actually act on that first. I'm not sure if this is very clear what I'm saying here. As I come to see the different patterns that my thinking has taken, as they unfold somehow because of the 3 principles being present in me, I see it's like bit by bit, that whole, what he describes as a biological process, is actually being dismantled. Does this make any sense to you, Dave? I'm not sure, because you see, for me, it's all connected, but I'm not always very good at showing the connections.
I think you are. It's, you know, I think effectively to simply change that, to kind of, if I'm hearing you rightly, what I'm hearing is you're saying that we have this neurology, but as you've come to study the principles, your neurology has changed. You've come to see the world differently, and this is it. You know, as our thoughts change, so does our neurology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, that as we become more and more aware of the role of thought in our life, it impacts our biology, not just our thoughts and how we see the world from what we might consider to be a spiritual, psychological, emotional space, but it actually changes our biology.
The moment we create a duality, a separation from thought, we're into illusion. we're into misunderstanding. So that
Yeah.
does, the body includes the body, includes the way the body works.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's like as Ernest Holmes said, a dead body cannot get ill. It can't catch a virus. So there must be something in the living aspect of consciousness that allows what is it within consciousness that allows the illness? And it's I'm not going to speak any more on that, but it's something to have a think about. Perhaps somebody who can think about that deeper than what I can see at the moment could maybe come up with something. But it's an interesting point. Thank you, Mary Love.
Thank you.
15 minutes over at the moment.
Just want to do Kim.
Well, we're going to the whole section after lunch is everyone sharing.
Right.
So Kim, could we go then? Is an hour and 15 minutes long enough for everyone for lunch now? So we come back at the time stated, because whenever I change it by 15 minutes, I get so confused by my own itinerary.
Let me just finish with this point.
Can you read it? Can you start with it?
I'll finish with it now, because it'll just tie up. We'll just finish off the.
Maybe we'll come back a little bit later.
It's by Cahill Gibran, and it's called On Children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrow may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves the bow that is stable. Cahill Gibran. The Prophet. From the book The Prophet. Let's have some lunch.
So we're back at around 3 o'clock.
3 p.m.
UK time.
That is 1 hour and 15 minutes for anybody who's in Taiwan and can't be bothered to start Googling how long. Hour and 15, man. See you soon.